Hello, Community29 here, another Topic of the Week video. Halloween month kind of threw my schedule off, but I'm getting back on track as soon as I can. So, I thought I'd talk about some Pixar movies with this one. This topic was submitted by YouTube user Mariana Gonzalez, and their topic is, I'd love to hear your thoughts on other Pixar movies. What was your favorite/least favorite, and why? Now, a little while ago I talked about The Incredibles and my thoughts on it. And I was asked about other Pixar movies. This one's a little hard to narrow down because if it's asking about my least favorite and most favorite, I mean, I have several on both sides. Like, there are several Pixar movies that I really loved, and then there are other movies that I really didn't like. And there's some that are kind of middling in how I feel about them. Like, I didn't think they were terrible or great. I just think they were, Brave is in that category. Now, it's really difficult to narrow this down, especially for favorites. So let me talk about favorites. I feel like, I grew up with a lot of Pixar movies, like Toy Story, A Bug's Life, Toy Story 2, Finding Nemo, Monsters, Inc. Like, I grew up with a lot of those movies. So I feel like it would just be a little cliche to say, oh, my favorite is Toy Story 2, because I really like Toy Story 2. I liked Monsters University. Monsters University I actually was not expecting to enjoy as much as I did. But one of my favorites, especially in the more recent times, and I say more recent, the last 10 years, was I really liked WALL-E. I loved WALL-E. Like, when that movie first came out, I was obsessed with it. Like, I just enjoyed it so much. It's actually been a while since I've seen it. It's been a while since I've watched a Pixar movie in general. But I don't want to go back and rewatch WALL-E. But that movie just, I don't know. It's hard to really put my finger on it because I just really enjoyed the movie. I liked seeing Pixar tackle, sci-fi. They've done some more, mystical stuff and stuff that was kind of sci-fi. I guess Monsters, Inc. has some sci-fi, I guess, just with the technology of the doors, which is, they never quite explained that. Was that magic or technology? I guess it was a mix of both. Anyway, that's off topic. But I really liked seeing that and all the technology. And I really liked seeing especially the difference between the technology, with the robot, I believe it was Eva? The sleek white new robot. And then you have WALL-E, who's just this rust bucket. I liked seeing the difference between them, and I liked seeing WALL-E on his adventure. I'm actually really impressed that, considering that WALL-E barely actually talks, that they actually managed to make WALL-E an interesting and likable protagonist. There's a huge chunk of I don't know if it's a huge chunk. I don't actually know the time, but there's a large chunk of the movie, I'm pretty sure it was the beginning, where you don't actually have hardly any dialogue. It's mostly just following WALL-E. And what was most impressive to me about this is that I didn't realize that there was so little dialogue in that part until after it was pointed out. It was after I left the theater. And then I saw it pointed out and I was thinking, I'm like, they're right. There is hardly any dialogue in that. And considering that WALL-E doesn't really speak much, especially when you compare it to other significant characters in Pixar movies like Woody and Buzz, you get next to no dialogue with him. But you still understand his character. And that's the one thing that I didn't realize that there was so little dialogue in that beginning part where you're being introduced to WALL-E properly. Because everything about his character that you need to know is conveyed through the animation. You see the way he acts, and you see how he reacts to things, and how he, you get his personality, and you understand WALL-E. You also get the sort of, the loneliness and the status of Earth and being kind of a dump. But it's but it conveys everything that you need to know without having to dump any exposition or have WALL-E talk or say anything. And I really love it when a movie can do that. It can convey feelings, ideas, emotions, and even the story without directly having to tell you anything. Some movies do this a bit, but Wall-E did a lot with that. And I always really enjoyed like seeing them be able to do that. I was really loved that. I also like the fact that they had an environmental message in it that didn't feel like it was like really stupid in your face, like James Cameron's Giant Blue Space Smurfs. I'm sorry, James Cameron's Pocahontas. I'm sorry, James Cameron's Avatar. Where it's just this stupidly insulting message, an anti-capitalist message from a guy who makes money from a capitalist economy. James, come on. I mean, the whole movie was just stupid anyway. And so one-sided. It was just dumb. It was dumb. But with Wall-E, it's like, it's part of it, but it's like, you also get to see Wall-E discovering, and a lot of it shows, I wouldn't say an anti-technology message, but it's showing, with humans, it's like, if you come to rely on technology for literally everything, you end up just not being able to do much of anything. And, I do kind of agree with that. I mean, granted, the movie was obviously hyperbolic in that, and everyone is just fat and floating chairs. But, I mean, it, of course, is hyperbolic to display the point. That was why it was sending the message. So, I thought, I thought it was good, and, man, now I really want to go back and rewatch it. Like, I mean, I like the fact that it was showing people going back to Earth. It's not like the Earth was written off, and then you had humans be able to go, like, at the end of the movie, they go back, and they start rebuilding, and humans start... they start doing things themselves again, and you see these, humans that are on the ship. I forgot what it was called. They start realizing this, and when you see in the, like, I believe it was the credit scenes, you see humans come back. They start rebuilding. They become more fit, and it's a nice, happy, optimistic ending of Earth was written off, but it wasn't hopeless. They went back, they rebuilt, and Earth became a better place, not just the dump that we saw, in the beginning. I just really loved that movie. That was a movie, like, I felt like when I watched it, it was like, oh my gosh, this is amazing, this is the best movie I've ever seen, it's an 11 out of 10. Yeah, I was a little over the top when I was first saw the movie, but it's just a really fun movie, and I liked Wall-E as a character. I just really enjoyed Wall-E. Okay, this is just basically gushing on Wall-E. That is one of my favorite movies. I mean, Monsters University was also good, which is so weird because it's funny. I've always said that I never really wanted a sequel to Monsters, Inc. because I thought it ended just fine. At the end where Mike reconstructed Boo's door and then Sully, finishes it, opens the door, and it's, to show that, he gets to see Boo again. It was a nice, very emotional, it just hits me right there. I don't think I'd want a sequel because I feel like a lot of stuff just got wrapped up in that movie, and like all the stuff got wrapped up, and they'd have to come up with an entirely new plot to continue from it. But a prequel was a different story. And when I first heard about it, I was just like, oh great, it's a college movie. But I think it's kind of interesting to see a college movie with the monsters. And I actually liked the story arc for Mike and Sully. That, you think you know exactly what's going to happen. You've seen the first movie. You know they're the top scarers. So you think they're going to go through college, graduate, then go and work at Monsters, Inc. And then that's where the first movie would pick off. Where it's been a few years. They've managed to really work up the ranks. And they've become the top scarers. Competing with, Randall. But no, they get kicked out. And then they work their way up from just menial position. I believe it was in the mailroom. And then they start, they work together. They put the blood, sweat, and tears into it and end up getting the job as scared. even just that ending was like, oh, wow. Like, when I first watched it, that really impressed me, because I think there's, it's a good message to show that, college isn't the be-all, end-all. It's not like if you didn't go to college or if you dropped out, that doesn't mean your life is completely worthless and you'll never do anything. You don't have to be a super genius to drop out of, college and then actually have a successful life. It helps. But you see that with Mike and Sully, you actually got to see them sort of work up the ranks so that their position, like they didn't just coast into that position. They earned it, and wow, I really liked the message. The message of that movie was really good. I also loved seeing like Randall. You get to see his start of darkness, and you find out that the reason he squints so much is because he wears glasses. That was the funniest thing. It's like, and he didn't get contacts. He just takes his glasses off, and then he's squinting, and then just like, oh, that's why he squints so much. But then seeing Randall go from dweeb to villain in the movie was entertaining. But, yeah, Monsters University isn't one of my favorites, but I really liked it. Oh, I only meant to talk about one movie that I liked, but I also liked Monsters University. And I guess I can't not talk about Toy Story 3, because Toy Story 3 was like, that was a movie made for my generation. Like, I grew up with Toy Story. I grew up with Toy Story 2. And you have this time skip. And suddenly Andy is older. He's going to college. And he's no longer just a little kid. And you get to see him ultimately giving up his toys at the end to a new kid. And you get to see them together. And, it's like, growing, it really hits you harder when you grew up with Toy Story, because you know these characters. You know Andy. Like, I was a kid when Andy was a kid. And then when that movie came out, I was still roughly about the same age as Andy. I might have been a little older. I don't remember exactly when that movie came out. But yeah, I was an adult. Well, the point was I was an adult then, and seeing that, it's like you have all those feelings of all the toys that you loved when you were a kid, and you have an attachment to them. But, then Andy giving away his toy, giving Woody and Buzz and stuff to a new kid, so another kid gets to grow up with these toys that brought Andy so much joy. I wouldn't say it's a perfect movie, but I always get so worked up over Toy Story 3. Yeah, sorry, this is a little embarrassing. Just, I know, especially when they were at, like, that incinerator scene, I was just like, oh, gosh, I'm sorry. I get worked up with Toy Story 3. I enjoyed that movie. I felt it was a very emotional, fitting ending to the Toy Story, like, trilogy. I really hope they don't make any sequels. I don't want a sequel to it. I really don't. It's like, okay, you ended it. It's great. We're done. I don't really want one. It's kind of like with Monsters, Inc. I don't want a sequel. I'm happy. I'm content with that ending. If they managed to do something really good with a Toy Story 4, and if they brought Bo Peep back, seriously, bring Bo Peep back. But I feel like that could have been done in, like, a short film or whatever. I know they released some shorts on that, but yeah, okay. Yeah, especially in terms of newer movies, those are ones that I did like. Before I get into the ones I didn't like, okay, I'll try not to talk too much about it, because I could rant on throughout an entire topic about some things I didn't like about certain Pixar movies. Let me start off let me ease into this a bit. There's some movies that I was not really a big fan of. It's not so much that I think they're terrible, but more so the fact that I just didn't like them. Ratatouille is on the lesser end of that, but it's still on there. I never really got into Ratatouille. Not that there's nothing that I, didn't like about it, or it's not like there's nothing that I liked about it. It's just, I don't know, the movie never clicked with me. I like the characters just fine. Got some funny jokes. I can suspend my disbelief for the ridiculous idea that pulling hairs is going to control a guy's body. That's ridiculous. But if I can accept the universe of Cars and the universe of Toy Story, you know what? I've seen weirder stuff in a Pixar movie. But, I don't know. The movie was never really, like, amazing. Like, a lot of people really love it. And that's fine. I can see why. I just, for me personally, Ratatouille was never big. I was never big on it. Up was a movie that, I know a lot of people like Up. I didn't. That movie always felt like a big bummer to me. I never really got into it. I didn't even really care for the characters all that much either. Except for the dog name. What was it? Oh gosh. I haven't seen Up in so long. Mainly because I didn't like it. I didn't rewatch it. Doug. Was it Doug? The talking dog. The talking dogs are arguably the best part of that movie. I honestly really enjoyed their characters. Like the big tough dog, but it had a really squeaky voice. And, you know, and I do admit the funniest joke in that entire movie was the squirrel. You know, that's all. To be honest, that's the one that's the one takeaway I got from that movie was the squirrel joke with the dogs. I don't want to say I didn't enjoy anything else, but I just found myself not really engaged with that movie. I just, especially after the beginning. The beginning of the movie tears you up. And it's like, oh, you get attached to them. Oh, it's not like they got married. Oh, no, they can't have children. Now she's dead. I don't know. It's just, I never really got much higher than that in the movie. I feel like that was, as emotional as that opening bit was, it kind of soured the movie for me because I just felt kind of either bored or miserable in the movie. And I know it tried to be optimistic, but I just never really got into that. The movie just felt like a bummer to me. Now, granted, it wasn't as bad as watching a movie like Watchmen, which was just absolutely awful. Because the movie was so freaking depressing. And, like, I mean, I came out of that movie so depressed. And I actually felt guilty for liking superheroes because of Watchmen. Because it was just so awful and so negative. It wasn't a deconstruction of superheroes. It was just bashing the concept of superheroes. If you like it, you're obviously an idiot because superheroes and all, if they existed, they'd all be a bunch of douchebags and they would kill and murder and like. Yeah. Okay. So I don't want to talk about Watchmen because I hate Watchmen so much. Talking about Pixar, not superheroes. If I talk about The Incredibles, I already talked about The Incredibles. That was Pixar and superheroes. But yeah, Up was never a movie I was really all that big on. Brave? I was bored by Brave. I was like, that was the first movie that I really watched. It was the first Pixar movie that I watched. And I just thought, I didn't really care about Merida. And really, she's just kind of bratty. I don't know. I was never really into Merida or her story. I've been told that you need to be like a mother or a daughter to really experience the movie, which that always seemed weird to me. Like, oh well, no, you have to be a specific type of person and have a specific type of relationship with your mother in order to really appreciate this movie. It's kind of limiting, don't you think? I mean, frankly, the movie shouldn't be like, okay, but unless you're a daughter or a mother and you're having a mother-daughter, relationship, you can't really enjoy the movie. I don't really buy that because the movie should be able... Like, I should be able to at least be entertained by the movie. But I just felt bored. It was a beautiful movie. Yeah, I mean, okay. Even in their worst movies, like Cars 2 is absolute dumpster fire. Still beautiful. The movie still looks gorgeous. That's something that Pixar is always good at. Even in their worst movies, there's the animation, the graphics, everything is going to look beautiful. Story is where sometimes some of these movies fall. And I don't know, I just feel like Brave just missed the mark. I mean, I have to go back and rewatch it to really dig into it, but I don't know if I want to. The first time I watched Brave, I've seen it a couple of times. Well, I had to watch it a second time because I got so bored with it the first time that I just started getting on Tumblr and I was just... I was on my computer just because I didn't care. I didn't even care to watch it while I was on my computer. It just... I mean, even when I rewatched and I sat down and watched the movie, I just didn't really care. I mean, I wouldn't say it's an absolute horrible movie. I just think it's just meh. Okay, so getting into the movies that I didn't like, some of these, like, okay, I hate Cars 2. Mostly because I'm a really big fan of the first Cars. I like Cars. It's a racing themed, Cars themed, Doc Hollywood movie. But, it's very similar to Doc Hollywood. But with cars. And Owen Wilson. But, and then seeing the sequel just, like, hey, everything that made the first movie good, we're going to throw it all out because it's Mater time and it's a gritty spy movie where people die? Wait, what? People dying? I mean, the worst you saw in the first Cars was the king crashing and getting all wrecked up. But he was still fine. He didn't die. And I was just, Cars 2 missed the mark. It should have been about Lightning McQueen going up against that European race car in the world tour. Like, that's what it should have been about. And maybe Lightning McQueen still has lessons to learn. And especially, without having Doc there, I just don't really like that they decided to kill him off because, I mean, okay, I know death of the actor and stuff. I just feel like saying, oh, well, he died off screen. I mean, you can keep the character around and just not, show them or have them talk. You don't need to go, oh, well, they died. But even then, you wouldn't have Doc in the movie. But having Lightning McQueen move on and maybe start teaching the lessons that Doc taught him and seeing him grow up, I think that could have been made for a solid sequel. Especially if you developed his relationship with Sally and, you actually showed him, like, where he is now. It's like, but I feel like they just skewed all of that for Mater because, hey guys, Mater is popular. People like Mater. So what should we do? Let's just cram in a huge movie down their throats, all focused on Mater. Mater was good in small bits. That's why characters like him get popular. They like their parts. Mater was funny in the first movie. But when you make him the main character, he has to be more than just funny sometimes. And it didn't work. And Cars 2 was just a terrible movie. Like, that was just a terrible movie. There's some that I also don't like. Like, Cars 2 is the worst. Cars 2 is about as bad as it gets when it comes to Pixar. At least from what I've seen. Since I haven't seen all of them. I never saw The Good Dinosaur. I didn't even know that movie came out until fairly recently. But, yeah. Some of my other picks are going to be a little unpopular. I didn't like Coco. I'm going to be talking about Coco in at least one specific part of one main issue that I had with Coco in another topic video. But it's not the worst. Like I said, Cars 2 is the worst. And there's another movie I think is worse than it. I mean, there's a lot of good ideas in Coco. I just feel like the movie feels like it was rewritten during production multiple times. And it's like, it doesn't really feel like it gels together. Some parts are just like, raw plot twist. And it's like, and some of the plot twists are just literally the most generic and obvious choices. Like, I called these plot twists less than 15 minutes into the movie. One of them I called like less than like a few minutes into it. And I was right. But then I was like, no, they wouldn't do it. Because it's so freaking obvious. I mean, if you know what I'm talking about, it's the main villain. I don't even need to say it. Really, I honestly don't feel like I need to say it because I thought it was so obvious. But I was thinking, oh, they wouldn't do that. That's too obvious. It's too generic. But I don't know. I feel like the writers, I feel like there were a lot of writing issues. I'd be interested to see the writing process for Coco because, it's hard to determine where exactly it went wrong. I mean, I don't want to spend too much time on this. Cars 2 is really the big one that I hated, especially as a fan of the first Cars. Coco's a movie I was really hyped to me, and I was excited to see it. When I watched it, I was like, I mean, I think that there's a lot that they could have done with Coco, but I'll talk about that in another topic some other time, because I will get to talking about another issue and a main issue particularly relating to De La Cruz in that movie in another topic. The movie I didn't like was one of the ones that I really didn't like, and this is probably going to ruffle some feathers. I didn't like Inside Out. I really didn't like Inside Out. I thought the movie was a mess. The movie feels like it should have been a 15-minute short film, but it felt like it was meant to be a short film stretched into feature length when there just wasn't enough to deal with it. I honestly, a lot of the characters didn't really work. The personality, like the emotions. I mean, the only ones that really matter are, joy and sadness. And I hated Sadness so much. She was so obnoxious. I mean, the only character in the entire movie that I actually really liked was Joy. But then I just like then the movie wants you to say, but Joy was wrong. Sadness was right, even though she basically caused all the problems. The movie was kind of a mess. I don't want to spend too much time on this because I have a. Once I get on this, I'll rant for quite a while, so I want to keep this fairly brief. I feel like the movie focuses on Riley, except Riley is more or less just a robotic husk for the emotions, which makes it impossible to care about her character, and even things that really could help you care about her character, they barely did. Like her talking to her best friend that she left when she moved. We get one scene of that, and we don't get them contemplating it or looking at it. Even looking back at her memories, that they have the whole memory bank thing. You could have done something with that to really help me, you get attached to Riley. But Riley's actions were dictated by the emotions clicking buttons, and it felt like she wasn't really a character, which is weird because the story centers around her. But it felt weak. Sadness causes basically a lot of the problems, and she initiates the things that, the conflict with Joy that ends up causing them getting kicked out of the control room. And then she's just sort of a useless lug. But then the movie wants to constantly put Joy down and prop Sadness up. Now, I get the message that you can't bottle up your sadness, and sometimes you just need to let yourself be sad. I understand that, but the way the movie went about it was terrible. I mean, Sadness doesn't come across as actual sadness. She comes off as almost manipulative and actively trying to disrupt things just for the sake of pay attention to me kind of a thing. And it pisses me off. I can't stand people who would do stuff on purpose to aggravate you and piss you off because they're looking for attention. And I felt like the movie didn't really address this much because it was so busy trying to have this idea that it almost felt like it was being written allegorically. And I hate allegorical writing when the only goal is to write something that's a metaphor for something. You don't really dig into the actual characters. This is a big issue that I have with Lord of the Flies, and one of the reasons why I hate that book with a fiery passion, because it's stupid and garbage and terrible, except for the last couple of chapters where it turns into this survival thriller where Jack is hunting Ralph. But other than that, it was just, I hated that book so much. And I feel like I like the idea. I like the idea that, it's saying that you need to be sad sometimes and you need to just let yourself. I've been there. I understand. Sometimes you just have those times where you're just really sad. And you just need to let it happen. Sometimes you just need a good cry. You need to get those feelings out, and then you can pick yourself up and move on. But that wasn't really what the movie was showing, because Joy wanted to keep Riley positive after the move. Which makes sense. She's Joy. And frankly, Joy's the only character who seems really concerned with keeping Riley, stable. I mean, disgust and anger don't give a flying crap. Fear cares, but he's not strong-willed enough to stand up to fear or anger and disgust. Sadness did not. She's just coming off so stupid. And Joy Joy took charge, but mostly because really no one else was going to be doing it. And I was like, and I like it's weird because it's conflicting with the idea of trying to remain positive in what is genuinely an unhappy situation, being forced to move totally away from everyone you know and in an entirely different place. And I've actually been there. I understand. I moved when I was younger, and I moved away from all of my friends. I had a lot of friends, and I had to leave them all and went to an entirely new city or town or whatever, and I had to make new friends, and I had to start a new life somewhere else. I understand that. I understand those feelings. So when you have it's saying don't remain positive, just be sad. And I know they're not trying to go for that, especially when they come up with the whole emotion mixing thing at the end, which just kind of came out of nowhere. The movie really felt like it needed a few more drafts. It really did. Especially why they didn't just go for the train of thought in the beginning of once they were outside of the control room. Even though they introduced the train of thought early in the movie, and I picked that out immediately as how they get back, even though they should have. Okay, there's a lot of issues with Inside Out. And I know a lot of people like that movie. I don't really get it, but I understand that there are people who like it, and okay. If someone gets mad at me criticizing the movie, I mean, you can like it. I'm not saying you can't like it. I just really don't like it. I don't think it's very good. I did not enjoy that movie. I like Coco over Inside Out. Coco at least had several parts in the movie that I actually did really like. Inside Out just felt... But again, yeah, okay. The worst movie is Cars 2. The worst one is Cars 2. It's definitely Cars 2. Because, especially as a sequel, as a sequel you build off of the original. And, the story and the characters. And you see where are these characters going next? What are they doing now? What's the problem they have to solve? And it's a weird movie to give a sequel to. Because it's very much... The whole story of the movie is focused on Lightning McQueen's character development. And in the beginning of Cars 2, it shows that Lightning McQueen is content, he's happy, he's not going to be easily goaded into a stupid competition. And I like that. I like seeing that. I like seeing Lightning McQueen's having grown up. And he's not a childish, punk like he was in the first movie, at the beginning at least. But then it's Mater initiates the plot, then Mater becomes a super spy, then Mater uncovers a conspiracy from a bunch of rundown cars. The story of Cars 2 was weird and just stupid. You had two main things going on with Cars. You had the action, which is the racing, which of course it's a racing themed movie. Then you had the emotional bits. You had the character development with Lightning McQueen. So that was so those are good. Those are nice. And you see Lightning grow to actually start caring about a small town that he thought was just his own personal hell. But none of that's in the sequel. It's nothing but action, and kind of some racing. And then Mater is an idiot, but it's okay because he's the main character. He gets a Super Spy Car Girlfriend. What? Gosh, Cars 2 is so weird. I know people at least will agree with me that Cars 2 is terrible. I mean, I don't think everyone's going to agree with me that Cars 1 was good. I liked Cars 1, but apparently a lot of people hate it. And I've actually gotten people get mad at me over it. I've gotten into arguments over it. Because apparently Cars 2 is the worst Pixar movie ever. Or at least it was back when I had those arguments. I always thought that was really weird. Like, of all movies to say that was worst, Cars? I mean, I guess back in the day, maybe it's the worst by virtue of not being as amazing as other movies, like Finding Nemo. But it was still good. But Cars 2 is just unequivocally a terrible movie. The resources, the beautiful, the scenery, the absolutely like beautiful graphics, the wonderful animation, all of that was wasted on a stupid as hell plot. So, if I actually had to say my favorite movie, it would probably be WALL-E. But I still love a lot of the older ones. I still love the Toy Story movies. I still love A Bug's Life, Cars, Monsters, Inc., Finding Nemo. And despite the issues I have with The Incredibles, I still mostly enjoy that movie. And the worst one is Cars 2. Cars 2 pisses me off the most because as a fan of the first Cars, seeing everything that I liked about the first movie, gutted and replaced with so much other stupid stuff, and the sequel that angers me. Well, there's my thoughts on some other Pixar movies. I think that's about it for this topic. If you want to submit a topic to me, you can comment below if you're on YouTube or if you're on Tumblr. Send me an ask and put topic, and then whatever topic you want me to talk about. Just make sure to follow the rules I'll be posting down below. If you want to watch last week's topic video, you can check that out here. If you want to watch next week's topic video, you can check that out here when I get that done. So any thoughts you have on Pixar movies? What are your favorites and your least favorites? Please comment below. And thank you for watching.